Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. Maybe I should have said that like a sailor kind of thing. Hear ye, welcome to Screams After Midnight. We talk about horror movies. This is a horror movie podcast. I am Peter, of course. I'm joined, as always, by my whippy. Was that the word, Tim?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So obviously, if it wasn't clear from the black and white and the ridiculous jokes so far, this is finally our episode where we're going to talk about Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. So of course, as always, we will start spoiler free for the movie, and we will give you warning before we get into spoilers. Although I'll be honest, outside of one or two,
what could you spoil?
Yeah, outside of one or two moments, I have no idea what I could possibly spoil in this movie. I'm a little bit nervous about talking about this movie, Tim. I don't know what this conversation is going to be, because
a slow descent into madness, most likely. I
don't think I can sufficiently describe in detail, when we get to like talking to the movie kind of in order. I don't know if I can tell you the order of events for a lot of it. Like there's a point in the middle that kind of like, okay, there's a lot of stuff before that, there's a lot of stuff after that, but other than that, the whole thing just kind of blurs together in a weird, delirious dream.
We'll make it work. It'll be fine.
yeah. So this is obviously Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, and this was his hotly anticipated follow-up movie. Stars Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson as two lighthouse keepers. One obviously Dafoe being the senior veteran in charge, and Pattinson being the first timer, who's his secondary. And it's them in a lighthouse, a little island, and kind of slowly going mad, especially once their ship to go home doesn't show up, and the descent continues from there. And it's, I might ask, that's a bit as good as I can do, I think, as a succinct description. So you saw this in theaters, you watched that again for the review. I just watched it for the first time, and well, Tim, how did you feel? How do you feel about The Lighthouse?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that I absolutely love this movie. I mean, we already did like our decade countdown, and I had it pretty highly up there. So, it's not a secret how I feel. Watching it again, though, it just really confirmed how much I really dig this movie. And I mean, like you said, it is like really hard to describe. I think some people were saying that they don't even really consider it a horror movie. I still definitely would consider it a horror movie. Mm-hmm. It is what I was thinking, and also, again, like, with the list and stuff that we've done, I had The Witch, very high up in my decade list as well. And I think what Eggers does so good is that I feel like he's able to kind of capture almost like experiences like on film. Like, to me, like The Witch is like all about like paranoia kind of spiraling out of control. And to me, this is just like descending into madness. Like I feel like you really go on a journey with these characters to the point where by the end of it, you also feel like insane. You're like, what did I just see? Like, what happened? What's real? What isn't? And I mean, the performances were great. It looks really good. I'm sure you'll want to go on a rant about the aspect ratio. But, like Eggers just does such a great job.
What is that supposed to mean? How dare you? Also, this has become a bit of a trend. At one point in the recording, I noticed Tim did a tweet on the @StreamsMidnight Twitter, before we started. But I received notifications for some likes on this. So Tim today, before we started, said, "We record on Sundays, which kind of makes the podcast our church." And Tim, well, he's our God. Tim, of course, being
very kind words.
Yes, Tim being the author of this tweet, referring to himself in the third person. Might we add? Why did you throw that out there?
Did you see the GIF?
I did. Yes, it's from Prince of Darkness. Yes,
that's right.
I'm fond of that movie, and it's one that we should do.
again.
Again, yes. So
Well, wait, don't we have? Wait, is this year our 5th anniversary?
it is, yes. Our 5th anniversary is in May, I believe.
So maybe for an anniversary we redo our first episode.
Yeah, well, we have to do it at some point because those first, I don't know, 40 episodes or whatever are pretty terrible and need to be done. Actually, interestingly enough, I actually just redid one of our early episodes on a different show. I know.
Bastard.
Yes, but arguably it is more of a sci-fi movie than a horror movie, although it's honestly neither, like, completely 100%. It's this weird in-between cult movie that veers slightly more sci-fi than horror.
Trying to think if I can think of what it is. I don't know.
I'll just say space vagina.
Oh, of course. Hey, I didn't tell you to do that movie.
I'm referring to God Told Me To, of course. Look for that at some point on the Atomic Cinema Experiment. But anyway, so...
Or some of our fans refer to it as Tim told me to.
If I ever snap and do anything drastic, Tim, I'll use that. I'll use it.
Thank you.
Tim told me to. So... Yeah, Lighthouse. Processing my feelings in the Lighthouse is kind of difficult, to be honest. Doing this within like 12 hours of watching it is extremely difficult. I've
had the benefit of sitting on it for several months.
Yeah, I liked how it looks. I like how the movie feels. It's got this kind of old-timey feel to it. It looks like a movie that's obviously set back in like the, I don't know, 20s, 30s, whatever it is. But yeah, it looks like it was made in the 60s. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
It looks like a movie that was made in the 60s but set in the 20s or 30s. Yeah. And it's black and white. The aspect ratio is a very unique one. I've not actually looked up what it actually is, but it's not 4:3. You probably looked at it and thought that's 4:3. And if you thought that, you're a layman, because it's actually, I think it's 1:1, I want to say. Or at the very least, it's the old silent movie ratio, which was not 4:3. That was actually a little bit... more square, I believe. So, but it's definitely a bit thinner. It's a bit thinner than a 4:3 movie. So, very weird, very, very interesting. And I think part of the reason for that is that you have the height of the lighthouse. So the idea is that you can frame it better in a tall image as opposed to a wide image. Okay. Is probably the thinking beyond just the old timey feel that it maybe wants to have, but. But did I like it? I think I liked it. I think I did. I mean, I definitely appreciated how it felt. I definitely liked the performances. I definitely liked a lot of the visuals and how weird it got at points. I definitely liked, the overall feeling it gave me. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to quantify, Tim.
Sure.
It's hard to quantify. It's a very unique, weird movie, and you're here largely for the performances, but it's definitely one of those things where you have to sit and think about what you think it means and what the interpretation you have for it is, because it's not a movie with a clear cut, like, here's the beginning, middle, and end, and here's the answer to what was going on. Like, it's not that at all.
Yeah. No.
It's not even remotely close to that. So, but yes, very, very strong.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about, and I don't know if there's a ton of people that could get away with something like this, but I mean, yeah, like the performances are so good that I think it easily sucks you in, between just the way it looks and just two great actors really playing off each other, and then again, just the idea of it just feels like you're slowly going crazy watching it, but I don't know, it's so effective. I feel like that's the goal, just to slowly spiral into chaos and madness, which I think it does very well.
You're fond of my lobster.
And that's actually I will say, it's surprisingly funny in some parts. I heard some people saying it was almost like a comedy, and it's I definitely wouldn't go that far, but I do think there is some weirdly comedic moments, which I guess maybe would just kind of be stuff that like breaks from the norm or something. But yeah, like you having like these two men like shouting at each other, fighting, and then all of a sudden like, acting like a married couple, or like slow dancing or something. Like it's just there's actually some surprising like tension relieving laughs in it.
Yeah, and it's obviously there's like is there something supernatural going on, right? Is there really sea creatures and the sirens and stuff like that involved? Yeah. And that's one of those things where I know how Pattinson feels on it. Pattinson did an interview where he said, like, I made a movie about going mad in a lighthouse. I did not make a movie about a magic island or whatever. Like, he was very clear how he felt as he was making it. But those possibilities are definitely there. There's things to talk about with like what's going on. Is it just people going mad, or is it something's actually affecting them? There's some Lovecraftian elements, of course, and there's a lot of phallic stuff going on in there. A lot of homoerotic tension as well, quite frankly.
Sure.
It's a whole thing. So I guess I'll give the spoiler warning, because I honestly at this point I don't know what to do except start talking about moments and ideas and scenes and.
Right, yeah.
Get into it. I will add that I also like the there's not a lot of music in it, but I did like it whenever it popped in.
Oh yeah.
So had this droning. Honestly, the start of it reminded me a lot of a Bela Tarr film in a lot of ways. Partly because it was black and white, but also partly just because it was like all these long shots of things happening. Not as long and drawn out as Bela Tarr. Bela Tarr is the king of making you wait for like 5 minutes for something to move on the frame, because that's what he does. But really good stuff. So spoilers then for The Lighthouse. I'll take this time though to thank our sponsors, or producers rather, if I say the right word, for Patreon producers. So thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess for being our producers. That means they are $20 or up on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But you can support us, of course, for as little as $1 per month over there, and get access to an exclusive bonus episode every month for $1 per month. And there's a whole back catalogue now, so if you sign up, you get access to the last like 12 or 13 that we've done. So there's a nice little treasure trove waiting for you. Isn't that right, Firefly? My cat's staring at me. But that is it. So let's go to the rest of the movie then. So obviously the first things first is that the movie kind of follows this idea of Willem Dafoe telling Robert Pattinson to get his work done and do your duties, and that involves cleaning everywhere, fixing things that break down, all that kind of thing. And he's particularly strict about it, where he's like, "Oh, you've been slacking on your duties, lad, haven't you?" And insists that he re-scrub things, stuff like that. He's working him to the bone. There's a scene where Pattinson like drags this keg of like kerosene all the way up the lighthouse stairs, and he's completely sweating and about to collapse, and Dafoe just pulls out like a little oiling kit and says, "Why don't you just put some in this," kind of thing. And there's a lot of that, and he's getting more and more frustrated, but he's specifically told to not harm the seagulls, the seabirds, because it's bad luck to kill a seabird. But this one particular seabird seems to have his mindset on making Robert Pattinson's life miserable.
Yeah.
And eventually, when he does snap, which I'm assuming, now again, the order of events is really hard to follow in this movie from memory, but I'm assuming this is before the ship doesn't appear. And the implication is that the reason why the ship doesn't appear is because, as he's told, it's bad luck to kill a seabird. But Robert Pattinson, on the last little stretch before they're going to leave, gets so frustrated that he grabs the seabird and just hits it repeatedly off the rock, just whipping it back and forth. "I'll whip my bird back and forth. I'll whip my bird back and forth." That's basically what he does. It's very visceral in how he does it, but also really silly at the same time, because he's just flopping this bird around. And it's like, okay, all right. So there's the omen. There's the bad omen, and then from there things get a little bit more weird. And there is weird stuff that happens before they don't get picked up, but that's where it really properly starts to get weird. Because everything before that, I would say, is more of almost a straight drama about like him being worked too hard and the expectations. And the one key thing that comes up, of course, is that Willem Dafoe under no circumstances wants to let Robert Pattinson up to the top of the lighthouse. He's not allowed to be near the light. That is for him and him alone. And even though the rule book says that he's supposed to, take shifts up there, he's like, nope, that's mine. You do everything else. I have the light watch. That's my duty. And that's kind of like a big thing the movie revolves around, is the desire to get to the top of the lighthouse and see what he does up there and what's going on up there. And that's before we even get to the sexual stuff. But yes, continue. Yes.
Yeah, because Willem Dafoe, he's like a control freak, and he's like a veteran of this. So he's been doing it a while, so he has a very specific way of how he wants everything to be done, and and it also seems like he takes like a lot of pride in his job and likes being a lighthouse keeper versus Robert Pattinson, who seems like he's just kind of doing it to do it, like he just like he needed a job, and then he's like very by the book, so he wants to like, oh yeah, I'll just do it this way, that way, and then is that part of what leads him into like going like mad, is like constantly being told like, no, you're not doing it the right way, do it my way, follow me, and like, no, you can't do this, can't do that. I don't know. It's it's very interesting, and then but then you also kind of get the feeling though that like, I don't know, I guess maybe like Willem Dafoe kind of likes, like kind of ordering him around, and like, and I almost get the sense too that like, I don't know, like I can see maybe if there was like a different type of person or something, maybe he might not even like it so much, but it's something about like Pattinson that he really likes pushing his buttons.
It felt like a statement on masculinity to me, like the way he has to make sure his dominance is appreciated the entire time, kind of thing.
Almost like the light, like you could almost kind of make a thing where you say like the light is almost like a woman or something, where he's kind of like, hey, stay away from my girl or something.
I mean, he even says that at one point. He says it's a better wife than living with a woman. He actually says that at one point. So I mean, that's but obviously the lighthouse itself is phallic shaped. It's just more penisy than anything else.
But then at some point though, would you say it kind of feels like it kind of turns where he like starts taking on more of a I don't want to say like female role or something, but he kind of like seems like he's turns into like a doting housewife like at some point, where and like Pattinson almost becomes like a like a drunk abusive husband or something.
No, it definitely plays with that, because we see them, because whenever it's dinner time, even from the start of the movie, like Defoe's attitude kind of changes, and it's like this is socializing time, so we're nice to each other here, and Pattinson doesn't really want much to do with it, but like that's kind of the time for that. As the movie goes on, like there's a lot of like weird, like they do feel like a bickering couple, and it feels like, even though like it almost feels like they're fighting for which one gets to be the man. Like that's almost what it feels like.
Sense,
because there's points where like obviously the whole idea of like Defoe putting his foot down and saying, no, you can't have this, and hiding the keys from him and stuff like that, and keeping a journal of his performance and like whatnot. He's trying to be the one in charge, but then there's times where Pattinson, like you say, goes into a drunken rage and wants to assert his dominance, and they do hit each other at one point, and but there's also times where they slow dance, and there's a moment when they're dancing where they almost kiss. There's a moment where they're kind of like like an inch away from each other, and there's like, oh, they might kiss, and instead they start laughing and doing whatever else.
That's when like the like toxic masculinity really kicks in, because then he like pushes him away and kind of raises his fist like, what are you doing, I'll fight you.
Yeah, so that is like a constant theme in this movie. It's just it's all this and it's not so much that I think they're attracted to each other. It's definitely, I feel like it's more about just how when it's just two people, how every facet of your like the desires and needs and like fears all kind of start coming out, regardless of the fact that like you don't have the type of people that you would normally need around you to elicit some of these reactions. Like
like people kind of start taking on roles, where it is like, like someone has to be, the mother, the father, the the son, whatever. Like it's like people kind of slip into these comfort zones and stuff.
Yeah, and then you also have this idea of guilt, because like at the very least, it's almost outright stated that Pattinson killed a man, possibly intentionally, when he was working lumber, and he has nightmares of like falling under the logs in the water, which is kind of what he did to the guy he killed, that we see like small glimpses of, and he's on the run. And but the other thing here is, and this is what I was really thinking throughout the movie, is that both characters were actually the same person. And and I was thinking that long before it was revealed that they both had the same name, because obviously for most of the movie, he's what, Ephraim is Pattinson's character, and Dafoe is Thomas, and then we find out eventually that Ephraim's a name that he took on because he's hiding because he killed someone, and that his real name is also Tom. And so when he said that, it kind of confirmed for me, at least it's intentional, that I'm kind of thinking along these lines, that they both represent different parts of the same personality, or the same person. And like, you know, the strive for dominance, the one being dominating over the other, the idea that one's taking on the ego role of being like right about everything and thinking he's always there, the other one being the angry one who like is constantly challenged to try and fight back. Like I think there's an argument to be said that this entire movie takes place inside like Pattinson's mind. Like
I think
there's an argument to be made for that, and it's all of it's just him, all of it's just the two different parts of who he is. Especially since not only do both have the same name, but both have, you know, weird sexual drives, where we see both of them masturbating at various points in the movie, where Dafoe's up in the lighthouse doing it, and it's kind of eerie and surreal. There's a point where Pattinson sneaks up the stairs and he's looking up through the grating, and Dafoe is clearly masturbating, but there's also hints of something else up there, which is kind of hinting at the Lovecraftian stuff, which we'll get to separately. But we see like jizz like gooping down from above, and like Pattinson has to dodge it. We see, you know, Dafoe's kind of humping his own hand in his bed, and Pattinson's kind of watching that as well. And then later on, or spread throughout, we see Pattinson masturbating himself, looking at this little siren, like, you know, statue or figure or whatever it is, and like, so that, again, the idea of the sexual frustration, the sexual pent up, you know, energy is also at play here, and the idea that this is getting stronger the more, because sort of crazy they're getting, and the weirder they're getting with each other, because they're the only other person that's around. It's like you said, like once you're alone with one other person, all of a sudden that one person has to be everything in your life. It has to be your parents, your siblings, your friends, your lover, your everything.
Oh God, is that what's happening to us?
Well, Tim did send me a message as he was watching this last night. It says that The Lighthouse is basically just the story of our podcast. And I was on stream when this was happening, so I said this to people, and they said that I was the Dafoe and you were the Pattinson, which I'm okay with to a point.
I mean, you're definitely farting a lot more than me, for sure.
You don't know that. Yeah, because Defoe's very dismissive of him throughout the entire movie. He's like, go do your duties, lad. Like that's his kind of thing the whole time. And he farts in his face at one point. Go watch horror movies, lad. What do you think? You're some sort of professor? This is my lighthouse. So yeah, there's so much to kind of like take into account here with all these little moments, and like, because obviously once they're on the island and it's just killed their stride, and the storms are constantly raging, the place to live, you know, the bottom of the lighthouse is filling up with water, they run out, they're constantly drinking. There's a whole thing in the first half of the movie where Pattinson won't drink alcohol. He keeps saying, though, he's on duty, he's not supposed to, so he drinks water instead. But the water's kind of off because it keeps getting contaminated. But then halfway through, it's like they're almost done, so he's like, hey, just have a drink, I won't rat you out. And he takes a drink. And from that point on, they're both just getting drunk constantly. And they seem to like each other when they're drunk, but not when they're sober. So again, it's just this extra layer of like the delirious, and then eventually when they run out of booze, they start drinking kerosene to get drunk, which, you know, not the healthiest move in the world.
Yeah. My cat's sticking her tongue out at me. It's very funny.
That's delightful, Tim. It's delightful.
Take a picture of it. I'll post it later.
Okay. Picture on social media. Probably weeks ago by the time this goes up. But there you go. So yeah, it's a hard one. And then you have the Lovecraftian elements, which there's hints of tentacles where at one point when Dafoe's masturbating up in the top of the lighthouse. And then, of course, we see a siren, sort of brief glimpses, and some of it's more implied to be dreams. Of course, that really kind of culminates in this weird masturbating section where it's kind of cutting between the creepy stuff, the guilt memories, having sex with the siren, and we do see like a vagina for the siren, like quickly, kind of just in the middle of everything, because obviously there's no legs. It's just kind of there. So that was trippy. That's just mermaid physiology. Come on. Of course, yeah. What full of me? Yes, that's where the mermaid vagina goes.
And you know, like sometimes, you know, you can talk about like dream sequences and, you know, hallucinations or whatever being like cheap, and they definitely can be a lot of the time, but I think it's like used very effectively here where, well, I mean,
if you're going down the Lovecraft path of like there's a force making him go mad, and the force is this siren that's kind of like luring him into the madness, then, you know, it's not even just a dream. It's like it's her kind of, or the entity is kind of seducing him. So you know, it's a dream with purpose. It's a dream with intent behind it.
Yeah. So it's effective in that way, but then also it just, especially with the black and white, I feel like looks really, really good. Like, you know, it's it's creepy. You get just enough of it to like give you like, you know, a little bit of a horror vibe, but it's not like, again, you're not watching this because you want you know, monster movie jumping out at you, but like it's cool that it gives you like enough just really beautiful like imagery and stuff to kind of satisfy that itch.
But of course the Lovecraftian stuff could just represent his madness, and you know, the most we ever see of it, of course, is when he eventually kills Dafoe. You know, they fight and he kills him, and it's as he's killing him we see like tentacles coming up behind him, because it kind of becomes, because he's on top of Dafoe, but it kind of turns into the mermaid, and it's kind of like he's having sex. It becomes very sexual looking, and then the tentacles kind of start coming up behind him, and they look quite good, I will say. And it's this idea that, okay, so this is him fully being taken over, like he's being completely seduced by this thing, or it just represents the madness and he's completely went fully mad. But that said, there's so much stuff in this movie in the second half that could just be dream sequences, could be happening, could not be happening. But like I say, the entire movie could just be inside someone's head, and both these characters represent the same person.
Which, that's interesting, because then if that is the case, you know, it's almost like he's literally trying to bury that persona of his, you know, because he walks it out like a dog, and just you know, puts it in a hole and starts burying it.
Well, if you think about it, he's the younger one. You know, Pattinson says that he wants to, like, you know, get a good job, raise, you know, get some money, and then settle down somewhere. And Dafoe has already like had a wife and kids and left them because he was at sea, and he, you know, just wants to spend his days working on a lighthouse. And it's almost like the younger persona, let's say this is a character who's already lived his life, the younger persona is trying to kill the older one, because the older one represents all the failure of, you know, not getting what he wants. Like there's a lot to read into there, in that sense. And the idea of the personas like try to like strive for sexual dominance, and then like you say, eventually actually just outright trying to kill the other one, if we're going with that idea.
And then that's like eventually what ends up just killing him altogether, because then
it's all about getting to the light, right? It's all about getting to that one thing. The obsession became about this one thing that he was told he couldn't get to. So he eventually, you know, steals the keys after he's buried him alive. And I thought the burying alive thing, because when I say he kills Dafoe, we think he's dead, but when he puts him in this grave, he's actually still talking.
And then he comes back like one last time.
Yeah, but he's like digging, he's like just shoveling dirt on him, and credit to Dafoe here, because he was having like dirt like flying into his mouth as he was talking. This was icky as shit to watch.
Yeah, that actually really, I don't know if it's like a common thing, but that's actually like something I really hate seeing in movies. Like just imagining like dirt, especially like that much dirt in your mouth. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, if I ever get like any, like, I don't know, if I get something in my mouth, like I immediately need to go like, you know, rinse it out, and then just, yeah, thinking about it. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe you know, it's a movie. Maybe they use like cookie crumbs or something to throw into him.
Yeah, it's black and white. Maybe it's just like thick like chocolate cake that's been crumbled.
Yeah. In which case, hey, sign me up, Eggers. Whatever movie you're doing next.
Who wants to shovel chocolate cake at my face? I'll do it. So he goes up to the lighthouse and he goes in and the light itself, the light bulb opens as if it's got a door. Maybe that's a normal feature, maybe there's actually kind of a central bulb that you change, but this felt like a really weird thing to me that this had like a door on it, this bulb. And he looks into it and it's so blindingly bright, like, you know, it takes away all the darkness, and it's almost like, if we're going with the idea that this is all in his head and he's just killed his other persona, that this moment of seeing the light is him seeing the truth. You know, it illuminates the darkness, it illuminates everything, and he like knows in that moment who he really is, and he falls seemingly to his death, but he's actually lying there alive in the bottom outside for the final shot of the movie, where the seagulls are just basically pecking at him and eating him, but he's still alive to feel it all. And maybe that's what the movie kind of represents, is that he's alive to experience all this pain. You know, again, going with the idea that it's all in his head. And that's what life is, unfortunately. It's a very depressing message, of course, but, you know.
What do you think about, like, the passage of time in this movie? Because you mentioned before how, like, you know, they talk about how they missed their boat, but then I don't know, I kind of also feel like, is all this even taking place before the boat was supposed to come? Because, you know, like, there's that one scene where he's kind of like, how long have we been here? You know, like, 1 day, 2 days, like, weeks, you know, like, and again, just another thing to kind of, you know, compound on this idea of going crazy and insane is like, yeah, how long of a time span are we really looking at here?
Yeah, I know there's also another interpretation of this film about, you know, I think, like, you know, mythical stuff like Proteus and, like, you know, the, like, you know, mythical figures and like who they represent and stuff. I can't even begin to talk about that. I don't know any of that shit. But I just wanted to acknowledge that that's also like a take that I've seen just from a quick glance today. Like, that's one thing that people talk about is that side of stuff. And then, of course, there's the idea that maybe is the most exciting to us from a you know, a horror movie perspective, is that there's actually a Cthulhu or, you know, a sea monster like cosmic entity that is seducing the character and making him go mad, and that's what the siren is, and that's what the tentacles are. And at the end of the movie, you know, it's basically him seeing that truth, or seeing, you know, finally reaching that moment of like true madness that the entity wants him to achieve. But
and it also kind of, and it's probably like a lot of stuff you can make about just, you know, in general, like man versus nature and stuff, you know, where, you know, like, yeah, obviously all the stuff with the seagulls, but then, I don't know, maybe just the idea of, you know, trying to control the sea or something, you know, like the, you know, Lighthouse, you know, the idea of, you know, like just, you know, a way to make the, you know, waters like safe for people to travel, and, you know, nature being like, no, like, you can't control us, like, we're, you know, we can become rageful and violent, like, you know, we can be calm and nice, but yeah, it was like definitely a lot that you can make like said about that.
Yeah, the sea's like, no, instead we're going to control you, kind of thing. Also, again, another thing is the idea that, just to go with the whole, they represent two parts of the same personality. There's a moment where Pattinson tries to take the lifeboat out. And it's the water. The water's clearly far too rough to actually take this little tiny boat out in it. But you know, Dafoe comes up and just smashes it with an axe and says, "Don't leave me! Don't leave me!" So, you know. Again, this ties into the whole "they're a married couple now" kind of idea, but it also ties into the idea of one personality like desperately not wanting the other one to leave. Because and the other thing that's worth mentioning is that if we're taking everything at face value, Pattinson does find a head at one point that implies that Dafoe killed his previous rookie. And the fact that this has never been a problem for him to continue doing this job is also an implication of like this is not just a real world thing. This is, you know, in a head or something like that. Or again, is this just Pattinson going mad and he's not really found anything? This is just the cosmic entity making him see something. So, I mean, those are kind of the main ideas that were running through my head. Is like you take it at face value, and there's a cosmic entity making him go mad. That's all inside someone's head. Or it's not inside someone's head, but it's just someone going mad and like raging against the other person. So, I mean, those are kind of the three main broad ideas that I can kind of go with in terms of talking about the movie. Which one, like, I don't know if I lean towards any one more than the other. I feel like all three are equally kind of valid and, to me, interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with like a lot of, you know, like good, you know, like I don't want to say artsy or whatever, but, you know, movies that, you know, maybe have something a little more to say than, you know, just like a regular Hollywood movie or whatever that's very obvious or something like that, you know, each person can kind of, you know, get their own conclusion out of this. And, you know, there's multiple interpretations and, you know, like you know, I do think I lean more towards with like, you know, what Pattinson was saying, where it's like, yeah, I do agree that I don't think there's necessarily any supernatural stuff going on, but, you know, people can easily make their own conclusions and, you know, say that it's not. And then, yeah, you know, it's, I think like a lot of art that's worth examining, there's, you know, multiple interpretations and, you know, what you kind of get out of it is, you know, completely valid. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand on, you know, any one more than the other, but I do. I mean, it's a unique experience. No movie I've seen in a long time has felt like this. So,
yeah, I think that's one of the things I like so much about it, and also I think something that kind of makes it a little hard to talk about is that it is an experience. It's something you just kind of have to see for yourself. Like, you know, just describing it, I feel like doesn't do it justice. Like just saying like, yeah, I mean, Willem Dafoe, you know, farts a lot and orders Pattinson around and they go crazy and there's weird, you know, psychological stuff, but it still doesn't prepare you for like when you're actually watching it. And it is, and again, like a lot of the movies, you know, like sometimes with like the more, you know, art house stuff, I'm not as hot on it. I feel like, you know, the big difference with the things that I don't like is I don't feel like sucked in enough. And this is one of those movies that like just sucks me in like right from the beginning, you know, to the point where I'm instantly like, I like the way this world looks. I like, you know, the way these characters are talking and interacting. I like this imagery because, yeah, it's hard to describe. Everything I think is like so beautiful. Like it's like when you're talking about the, you know, scene where he finally makes it to the light and it opens up, like that's like a really like beautiful scene, I think. And then like, you know, when there is like horror stuff, like, you know, the mermaid sirens and, you know, the tentacles stuff, like, you know, when we talked before about like the mist and stuff, like black and white actually does really help like hide like sometimes CGI not looking so great, but I think this all like looks really great. And
I mean, it helps that there's only 2 quick shots of it in the entire movie, so they didn't have to do a whole lot of it.
That's true too. And I mean, you know, I like my animals and stuff, and like I love the seagull. Like it's such a, I wish I had a cool name like Black Phillip, but you know, all the seagull stuff.
It's a seabird.
Really cool.
It's a seabird.
Seabird.
No, the movie looks great. It has a great atmosphere and feeling to it, and it obviously has 2 great performances. It's got a lot of intriguing ideas and intriguing things going on. It's so hard to quantify though. It's such a weird movie. Compared to even the other art house stuff, because I like a lot of art house stuff, and this is definitely its own beast in that sense. You know, this is not a David Lynch movie. This is very, even though David Lynch is also very weird, this is a very different type of experience to a David Lynch movie.
Yeah.
like I say, the closest. I mean, I guess it's somewhat close to Bellatar in some ways, but it's not. And Bellatar doesn't get as abstract as this. Bellatar tends to be very straightforward, but the shooting style of it makes me think a little bit of Bellatar, even though Bellatar uses a lot of long takes. Like Bellatar is known for like 20-minute long shots. That's kind of Bellatar's thing. Like he makes a movie that's 3 hours long, but there's only like maybe 25 shots in the whole movie. Like that's like his thing. This obviously isn't that, but there's definitely mood moments and feelings that I got very early on. Once it got weirder, not as much, but I mean, I get we're at the point where we're rating it basically. So I mean, Tim, like, how are you rating The Lighthouse?
You know what? I had been thinking about it, and I think I'm gonna give it a straight up 10.
Whoa!
I honestly, I do think it is a masterpiece. I think the performances are just phenomenal. And another thing that Eggers does so well is like everything feels very, period accurate, which again, it's not like they put an exact date to it, but you get the feeling that they're going for that kind of time frame, and everything feels authentic. It looks authentic, and it's beautiful. It's something I've seen twice now, and it's stuck with me. Both experiences have been just as like engrossing and charming, and and again, I just like it. It's different. It's an experience. It really makes it stand out. So I absolutely adore it. So I don't know. I can't really think of like, a lot of times, like, to give something a 10, you got to kind of try to think, okay, is there at least one negative thing that I can point out that I don't like that would bring it down? And honestly, I can't really think of, anything about this that I would really like, knock points off for. Like, obviously it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So I don't, it's not like a perfect movie that everyone should love, but for me, I can't really think of anything I disliked about it.
There you go. So if The Lighthouse,
I'll give it a 4. It's a review.
If The Lighthouse is a penis, then this movie is essentially about two personalities of the same person trying to gain control of their penis. That is how I'm choosing to interpret this movie.
It's every penis has 2 balls, and the balls are always fighting for dominance.
That's what this movie is. It's about 2 testicles at sea fighting for control of the penis. They're semen. They're semen.
Oh my god, we cracked it.
They're semen. Okay, so this is a tough one. I feel like this is one that's probably going to go up or down, or like change so much for me over time as I see it again and have more time to think about it. But it's such a strong artistic feeling, and in a year where a lot of the mainstream movies, I was bored by how everything felt like, oh, we want to reboot this franchise, so let's do this soft reboot formula where we kind of introduce some new things, but ultimately we're just trying to hark back into nostalgia, and it's a corporate product made in a boardroom. This is not that. This is a batshit insane filmmaker saying, I want a movie that feels like this, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it feel this way. And because of that, it feels genuinely unique as you're watching it, and you don't know what you're in for. You don't know how it's going to end. You're really genuinely in for an experience of a movie. Combine that with good performances, good sounds, great visuals, a wonderful overall atmosphere. I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay.
It's going to get a 9.
Well, I mean, I think that's high enough scores for both of us to at least put it in the Hall of Fame for this show, at least.
The Hall of Fame. We don't. The Hall of Streams. Maybe we should do like a Hall of Streams at some point, Tim. We should do it.
If we go back and look at the scores for each movie, I do wonder what the highest ones would be.
There was a small time where I tried to keep track of what we were rating movies, but I kind of lost track at one point, and it was too far gone to like go back and catch up. If anyone wants a project to go back and like get all of our scores for every review, and sort of show and maybe do an average between the two of us as to what the total, the total is. I don't know, or maybe we just every so often get together and try and like say, okay, this year's entry into the Streams After Midnight Hall of Fuzz or something. I don't know. Like every year we get to put 3 movies in, and they have to be at least a few years old, and we like, I don't know, make our case.
The Golden Boy Award.
No, that's not what's happening. Not the Golden Boy Award. I will accept maybe, I don't know, the Shape Award. It's just of course the shape. The shape of an award. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, look, there we go. We've rated the movie. Dunzo. This has been the Lighthouse, the Screams After Midnight. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.